Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Beth Gaddis, the editor-in-chief at Planet DDS. Today, we're talking about how dental AI is evolving, especially as it pertains to clinical workflows and predictive analytics. I'm joined by Sheila Roth, the Director of Clinical Operations at Pearl Dental AI, Ron Burke, the Senior Product Manager at Planet DDS, and Rod Gandifard, the former Vice President of Technology at Onsite Dental. Rod, let's begin with you. Tell us a little bit about Onsite and what you were looking for in an AI partner.
Yeah, Onsite's a traditional or not non-traditional DSO. We're mobile dentistry in an employer-facing. We're kind of strewn across the country, many different states. We have over probably 100 different locations that are ran by about 35 different teams. So we have kind of like a large breadth operation that's hard to manage. From the clinical side. Traditionally, our clinicians, our head clinicians, would like to kind of just check on how clinical work's doing in the office, and they would just do simple chart reviews, pick a patient out of a hat, kind of utilize what the tools they had and see if they had any issues. So we were looking for technology, a product that would help us scale that. Not only so kind of AI is kind of the product. There's many different features that AI does, but the kind of main one was to help us scale our clinical team to kind of identify at scale issues or underutilization or anything that can help us run our practices optimized. So we kind of started the project to look for AI partners, and we landed on Pearl AI after a couple different companies we looked at, and we're happy with the results. It's probably the best product hands down out there, and a deep integration with our practice management system, PDS Denticon, only makes it better, right? So. And I think that's why we're here today, to talk about the deep integration between Pearl and Planet DDS.
And that's what really we're all about, is trying to make it as easy as possible for the clinicians and the teams to be able to access the information that they need at their fingertips. We know that it can be cumbersome to have to launch a new window or to open another platform. And so we're trying to keep everything as much as possible within Denticon. So we're excited to show everybody today a quick demo of AI Assist, which is our fully integrated AI solution for dental practices. It helps practices boost production, streamline operations, standardize care by automatically analyzing x-rays for patients of record who are on the schedule for the next 7 days, and then cross-referencing the AI findings with treatment plans already within Denticon. So we'll hop into that demo in just a moment, but I know we have some people on the call today who are not familiar with Pearl or with dental AI for x-rays. So we wanted to start with that. Ron, if you don't mind sharing your screen, and then Sheila, if you could kind of talk us through how Pearl works with Denticon and with Apteryx imaging, so we can see what it looks like.
Absolutely. Thank you, Beth. So Pearl's Second Opinion is a real-time patient-facing pathology detection device where we're highlighting areas of calculus, caries, periapical radiolucency, notable margins, and bone level measurements. This really enhances the clinician's diagnostic and radiograph review experience. Where we see the magic is when we take these insights, review them as clinicians, and then turn on our tooth parts tool, which is our anatomical segmentation tool that really separates that area of dentin, enamel, and pulp for the patient. And they're really seeing the ability to understand what us clinicians are talking about when we discuss incipient lesions or areas of progressed concerns, or maybe needing a root canal. Teams using this tool chairside have seen an increase of 15 to 30% in case acceptance. Our partnership with Planet really provides this seamless integration because we've taken all of those concerns with workflow change and removed them by embedding it directly inside of this XVWeb interface. So teams are using this on a daily basis. And like Beth was saying, Denticon's doing an incredible job, and Planet as well, to remove any type of workflow concerns.
Sorry about that, everybody. I was saying that it's really been a change, because I remember when I started in 2022 in dental AI, that it used to be that you had to open a different window. You had to go into a different platform. You'd have to open up Pearl separately. So to really have it be all integrated is what really makes a gigantic difference for all of the end users. So Ron, if you want to go ahead and close your screen right now. Sheila, can you tell us just a little bit more about how also, insurance companies are using these images as supporting documentation?
Yes, absolutely. So not only are we finding that patients are accepting dentistry earlier and more often, But we found kind of on accident that teams that were submitting the AI images in addition to their existing documentation have seen less denials and they're receiving their reimbursements earlier. We know that that's important for teams to be able to have that feature, and especially less work for the front office teams having to consistently go back and report more documentation to get those claims paid. So that was an added bonus, and we love that teams are reporting that pretty consistently now.
Yeah, it really is amazing the difference that it makes in having that supporting documentation. So we know that you still have to submit the original X-ray as well, the native X-ray, but to be able to show this, especially when it comes to periodontal disease, really can make a huge difference in approvals. So now that we've seen how that part of it works and how the annotations get put onto the X-rays, Ron, if you'll go ahead and share your screen again, let's go ahead and have you walk us through dental AI as it works now.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting, Rod's comments, because one of the things that we were concerned about is in the older days, dentists had the pile of charts, and there was the notion of, well, how do I know who I should be concerned about? So that's one of the viewpoints that we wanted to accomplish with this feature, is to have the opportunity for the dentist, for the clinical team, to see their day at a glance and call out which patients have AI opportunities, so they can have a look at those during or pre-schedule as they're getting prepared for their day, or as I'm looking at tomorrow's schedule. But we also understand that we have a unique position. We are the center of all of these partners. So we have access to everything about this patient in the clinical record. So we also wanted to make it easy for the dentist when it was time to treat this patient, that they had access to the AI information while they're in the chart itself. So we included the same link to information about AI from the restorative chart. So 2 places, pre-schedule as I'm overlooking my day, and then as a clinician, when the patient's in the chair, I have the ability to see this information. So we come back to the overview page, and I'm interested in any given patient's AI opportunities. As a clinician, I've got options. If I want to, as you can see, if I want to go to the chart or the treatment plan or the perio chart, I have easy access to any of those things. So I don't have to go jumping around. I have a single point of focus where I can get to these things. If I wanted to see the images, the overlay detail, I have that link as well. But if I'm interested in a particular AI assessment, I can simply click this link. And then at this point, we will open Pearl's Practice Intelligence, and we'll bring that particular study into display. And the clinician can now see the predicted statuses at the bottom of Practice Intelligence. And I can click on the particular item that caught my interest, and it will bring me to that image in Practice Intelligence that is triggering that particular assessment. Beth, as you pointed out, the difference here, one of the feedbacks early on I got is all of these things are all sorts of things that AI can uncover. The difference in AI Assist is we're only looking for things that have been predicted. That means it's on an image, but Pearl did not find any evidence in the treatment plan or in the ledger of Denticon that treatment has been addressed, or it's been treatment planned, but it's never been scheduled. So again, we're trying to make sure we focus the clinician on the things that they should care about, instead of there's lots of AI findings that we're making available. But the purpose of AI Assist is to make sure we try to point out the things specifically that the dental team should be concerned about.
That makes a lot of sense. Rod, can you go ahead and share with us the feedback that you've had from your clinical team?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So our clinical team, was kind of one of the first ones to kind of pilot this. We kind of have a close relationship with Planet DDS and Pearl, and their positive feedback came in as in like, this is the next logical evolution, right? Going from 2 panes of screen to 1. It also gave us some homework we had to do. There was a few things that we didn't do, like kind of like set dates for exams, bite wings, x-ray, simple stuff that we kind of left to the team. And then that kind of brought it to the forefront, said, hey, these are pieces that we should look at, kind of put some more protocols in place, some more systems in place to follow that. So it gave us a good look and then a better way at evaluating our policies and procedures that were effective to operation, that weren't just like, oh, let's just keep busy, right? So team loved it. Probably had some of the most positive feedback I've seen from a new product coming getting launched.
That's really fantastic. Did you see any kind of lift in case acceptance as well once this began to get used?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So that, going back to the Pro product, we did a rigorous ROI analysis on it, because it's a product that, it is a benefit. We do see some anecdotal kind of responses from our patients, being able to kind of see the treatment and looking at it on a graph with some colors and going, oh no, I need to worry about this. That resulted into actually, 15% lift in case acceptance, which you extrapolate that out across our company, that's $4.5 million a year in production added on. So that's a positive ROI, and our company is thankful for it. It's definitely well worth the investment.
Can you go ahead and just repeat that number? So you extrapolated it out to how much in production?
So yeah, we did through our metrics, and then through Pearl's metrics, which helps out a lot. They actually have a great suite of metrics within their program. We were able to figure out that by using Pearl in the offices that were using Pearl compared to offices that were not, we saw a 15% increase in case acceptance. Now you extrapolate case acceptance out to completion, and kind of moving on. We saw a $4.5 million increase in production. So that's kind of the funnel there.
Yeah, that's really incredible. And Sheila, that's what you're seeing with other users of Pearl as well, correct?
So yes, Beth, it's exciting to hear from Rod, because we are seeing, across the board that increase in case acceptance. I think the important thing to be mindful of here is, industry standard is maybe a 50% case acceptance across the board. But imagine patients understanding the treatment that clinicians are finally recommending, that the clinicians are recommending, and the patients are accepting the dentistry earlier and more often, right? Which leads to less invasive treatment and less expensive treatment. And we know that really is the foundation between patient retention. So we want to have the patients coming back, and we want to make sure we're helping them understand the treatment they're recommending. I think with AI Assist being able to take our review to the next level, it's really going to be in the best interest for the patients. And when we put the patients first, then the production always follows. As clinicians, we're used to looking at any chart and saying, what's outstanding? What am I doing today? But with AI Assist and Pearl together, we're now providing an additional set of insights. For example, doctor, this area on watch we see on the radiograph doesn't have a treatment plan. We'd love for you to take a closer look. Or Bob's coming in on Thursday at 7 o'clock for a crown, but at the same time, there's a periapical radiolucency. Could you take a closer look? So really the AI plus the clinician is yielding the best results, which is what we've also seen in our FDA trials. So it's great to see that the patients are getting the dentistry they need, and the offices are also able to see that rise in production.
And Sheila, can you talk a little bit also about clinical calibration, especially if you have multiple practices, you have multiple providers within those practices, it can be a little tricky to standardize, and that can often be confusing to patients. So talk to me a little bit about how AI can really help with that clinical calibration.
Absolutely. That's a key point, Beth, because when I used to manage my last dental practice, we had 2,000 hygiene patients per month. And so we had 7 different clinicians, and the patients were shared. So it was really key to patient retention to have our teams clinically calibrated. When are we filling those E1, D1 lesions? When are we watching? When are we waiting? You don't want to have a patient say, oh, well, Dr. King said last time I could watch that, and today Dr. Smith says it's time to do that. So really, to enhance that patient experience, the foundation of practice growth really stems from clinical calibration. Having practice intelligence, your team can sit, in your living room, if you'd like, as a chief clinical officer, and really kind of mentor and evaluate those clinicians across your entire organization, providing that 0 to 90-day increase where the clinicians are more comfortable, they're understanding what the team is actually expecting of them. They're feeling confident because they have that second set of eyes helping them diagnose. But ultimately, the patients are the ones that we're focusing on here. And like I said earlier, when we focus on patient care, the production always follows.
I worked with one group and they were talking about especially younger doctors. And I mean, doctors that also physically look younger. But sometimes when they're talking to older patients, the older patient might be like, "Oh, Sonny, like, what do you know?" And they might be a little bit more skeptical. And
Yes.
when they're listening to those younger doctors. And this group was sharing with me that it's really made a big difference to have AI because it is that objective viewpoint, and it's like getting a second opinion. And the younger doctors, not only do they have more confidence that what they're seeing themselves is now being validated by the AI as well, but when they're going to present it to the patients, that they're getting that greater understanding and patient education and getting that greater acceptance because it's not just them saying it, their experience is no longer being questioned. It's being validated by what the AI is finding.
Absolutely. And I think, Beth, also one thing to keep in mind is our second opinion feature is not to diagnose, right? It is to assist the doctor and provide those findings. We are called second opinion for a reason. We want the doctor to have full autonomy to make their first and final decision. So highlighting these pathologies is similar to like a spell check, right? We all know how to write and type, but having that little red line every once in a while to remind us, hey, take a closer look here, has been a huge help for these younger clinicians, as well as a DSO I had rolled out when we first began back in 2021. And it was interesting to hear the older doctors even say, yeah, I've been watching lesions a lot longer than I should have. By the time I got into them, they were further along than I would have wanted to do in my family. So it's really kind of, it's not discriminating between young and old, but I do see that in our staffing shortage that we all suffer from, which we could do a whole different webinar on. An interesting side that I have discovered when I was hiring associates was they're really looking for mentorship. And they would have other offers that would be higher daily production or however you're paying doctors, but they were choosing our practice because they had a dedicated mentor. And I think that's really helpful. And not to mention that 87% of patients would like to go to a dentist with the latest technology. That's also a great way to recruit new associates.
Well, and you mentioned the staffing shortage, and of course, hygienists has been a really critical point of that staffing shortage. And one of the things that I've heard is, since I began in dental AI, is that hygienists really like having the AI that is helping to identify where there might be bone loss, right, and indicators of periodontal disease. And so when you have that, supporting what they're seeing themselves when they're doing their probing and doing their charting, that it really does help the patient understand the periodontal disease and the extent of it and why they might need to go ahead with the next stage of treatment. But it's also helping to really calibrate between the providers and the hygienists in the practice as well. Are you seeing that too?
Absolutely. It's the same clinical calibration we need to be mindful of from a restorative side as well as from a periodontal side, and bringing in younger hygienists as well. There's always that, do I need to do scaling and root planing or do I not? And when they're alerted that those yellow bone level measurements remind them, it's time to take a closer look. Have we done some perio charting? In our practice intelligence suite, we have a full daily printout for your hygiene team where they are going to be able to deliver the best clinical care because we've told them who needs perio charting, who needs bite wings, and that is the foundation of making the best experience. So using the bone level measurements and the calculus indicator boxes has really proven to help evaluate periodontal disease. Again, focusing on giving the best care to the patient, and their perio programs are also increasing. So that's a huge value add for them to be able to turn a screen around and say, this is calculus, instead of having to show them black and white images with pretending there's a little spur they can see, right? As if they took a radiology class. I used to do this myself. And as a hygienist, I was holding up pencils where the bone level is and where it should be. So we don't have to do that anymore. And I think that's providing a lot of the trust that we're still focusing on improving in our dental space as well with patients.
Yeah, patient education is kind of a big positive from this. Not knowing the lingo when you're in an office and people start saying letters and numbers and things, seeing it in an image and then having it spelled out into plain English makes it a lot easier for us to understand.
Absolutely. And Rod, tell us a little bit more about the reaction from some of your clinicians. Did you have perhaps some more senior level clinicians that may have been skeptical at the beginning? And then talk to me about kind of how they evolved in their thinking as you went through the pilot.
Yeah, absolutely. The older salty guys, at first are kind of skeptical. They're not, too happy with products coming in. But because Pearl is a good product and it's able to kind of show them, what they see, they start trusting it. And then over time, they'll use it as a daily tool. Now, the younger folks, like you kind of go back into, who are newer, who are looking for the kind of the teachings from an expert, use it as a confidence booster. Hey, I got that right. Hey, I'm right on. I agree. And they're not afraid to say I disagree, and this is why, right? So it's a good level set between the two types of clinicians. I always think that this product's like a trifecta kind of a positive. One, it shows a patient side. So it's got a patient apparatus side to it. Two, it's got a clinical side to it to help the clinicians do better. And then three, it's got an operational side to make the operations better. There hasn't been a product, in the last 20 years since practice management systems went, to computers that has done this. There's nothing out there that kind of you can kind of test this to. There are operational things like, patient communication and websites and stuff like that, but nothing in the clinic that's going to make this make life. It's a game changer, right? It's a big game changer.
I love that. Rod, Yvonne, we had a question come in just about how do you access AI Assist? So if you could go ahead and share your screen again and just show, if you have this feature, how you would be able to access it. And I think you might be muted, Ron. You might be pulling a Beth.
Yep, there we go. There is some configuration before it will become visible. I won't bore you with all the setup pages, but under setup, there is an area where we have to configure our connection because we are interacting directly with Pearl via API. So there's a configuration of some credentials that allow Denticon to talk to Pearl. And then, so that setup would be at the account level. And then at the office level, because we understand that not every single office might use this, there would be a setting where you can say this office should have the AI Assist enabled, yes or no. And then once those two things are set, you would be able to have a toolbar icon added to your toolbar for those users. So it's not automatic. There is some configuration behind the scenes, but those will be easily to accomplish once you become a subscriber to Practice Intelligence. And Beth, if I could just sneak in one comment, because Sheila made a comment about something that was part of our feedback loop when we were going through beta. I've been in dentistry for 1 million years. It used to be called red dot, blue dot. Like there were opportunities of who's in the hygiene schedule that needs some operative work, who's in the operative schedule that needs some hygiene work. We recognize this as an opportunity. So that's why we added at the bottom of this tab, this is what's scheduled today. But we added the unscheduled in case I don't have to go. I can just come to my screen and say, boy, I had someone canceled. Is there someone on my list that has some unscheduled treatment needs? And we can find them easily, have access to all the radiographs, all the AI information that we need. So that's a little tidbit that we picked up in working with the groups that we worked with to try to add more value to this particular screen.
Rod, your clinicians must have loved that.
Oh yeah, yeah. They seriously honed in not only on the AI opportunity section, but yeah, the scheduled unscheduled treatment. It gave them a quick snapshot overview of the day that really wasn't in a spot. And one thing I do like to point out is like the teams now like use this as their kind of like starting point dashboard, whereas they used to be just a scheduler view, which was kind of like, okay, time-based thing. This has a lot more information. It's kind of jam-packed. It does promote less button clicks, which is kind of the goal in any kind of product, less button clicks to kind of get your action. So yeah, they love this part. And I thought it was probably the biggest bang for the buck was being able to see kind of all the key details to be actionable in one spot.
Well, for everybody who's listening, if you're already on Denticon and you would like to see more about this feature, please go ahead to reach out to your account manager and we can get that set up for you. So as we're winding up here, why don't we go ahead and just talk about some final thoughts? Ron, as the Senior Product Manager, what would you like to add?
I love hearing Rod say what he just said, because that was the goal. That was the goal, to have a single spot where a clinician, I've been to offices, it just drives me crazy that they spend their whole day in the scheduler, which just seems hard to consume. I wanted a screen that was easy to consume, fewer clicks, and it took me right to where I needed to go as a clinical person. So I appreciate, we didn't even pay him to say that. I appreciate that that was the actual experience.
Yeah.
Excellent. Sheila, what about you for final thoughts?
I would echo exactly what both Ron and Rod said. Planet and Pearl, I think, have been listening to clinicians. They understand the workflow. They understand how fast it is to review a chart and have to know instantly what happened last time, what's coming up, where am I at today? And in a typical review, you're in 4 or 5 different areas in a chart. So the fact that your team has been able to hear what clinicians are looking for, streamline this, allows them to better approach a patient, give better care, and ultimately save time so they can spend that with their patients. So congratulations to your team. You've done a phenomenal job, and we're looking forward to this moving forward as well with more integrations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, kind of echo both you guys. That I just point out the simple fact, that no one in the industry is doing this. Pearl and Planet DDS are the very first ones here. They're the pioneers here. I don't think anybody's close to getting to this in any way, sort of fashion, not for many years. So if you're not using this product and you don't have access to it, you're way behind the curve. This has just put Planet DDS and Pearl on the next generation of kind of technology out there.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to the 3 of you for joining me today, and for everybody who is listening in to us. If you need any more information, please go to planetdds.com or reach out to your account manager, and we're happy to help. Thank you again.